What's up, guys? Happy Thursday. Chuck and Nick here to bring you we got a 7 game slate today, the Utah Jazz slate. Nick, how we doing?
Good man, good. Yeah, interesting slate. Would like a little more value to open up as far as FanDuel goes, but it looks like you already have all the Jazz way too cheap over on DraftKings.
Yeah, and it's tough because it's the first game, and I was telling Nick before the show, like, do I play 3 Jazz? Do I play 4 Jazz? And so I'm gonna leave it at 4, and I'm getting a bunch of lineups with 4, trying to figure out if I'm running it back with more than one Washington guy.
Mhm.
But it reduces our flexibility for the later games. I mean, we have 5 games starting within a half hour of lock, and then we have the 2 island games, Sacramento and Golden State, and then Chicago and Lakers. And so maybe something opens up later. LeBron might be a true questionable today. What do you think?
Yeah, he sat last game, didn't he?
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
you're the resident Lakers fan. I was going to kind of lean on you for this. Yeah, it feels like a 50-50 to me. I don't know if he went through shoot around or what his deal is right now, but yeah, it feels like a game they probably want to take if they can from Chicago here.
yeah. Like this. Most of the time when LeBron and AD are on the injury report, doesn't mean anything, right?
Right,
Because they
right.
usually end up playing anyway. But because LeBron missed the last game, uh, I'm not sure. And we just got news that Isaiah Hartenstein is ruled out again, and so we're probably going to get Jericho Sims, 2 points per minute guy in the last game,
Oh my
starting
God.
with Chalk Precious coming off the bench, and so we'll take a few minutes, or we'll take a look at the bundle in a few minutes and see how that updates for that. Um, what other injury news should we be aware of today?
Tobias Harris is questionable with an illness for the Sixers. Marcus Morris for them also said he's going to be out. So they're actually thin in that rotation. I love the matchup against Indy. Embiid obviously coming off one of his best games of his career. Tough not to like him there. And then, yeah, other than that, it's weird. I know we got Kevin Love ruled out already, but now they have Rozier in Miami, so that doesn't really move the needle much. You already talked about LeBron. I was waiting on the Hartenstein news. Mike Conley's questionable again. That one's pretty interesting. It's actually kind of affected things more there than maybe we're seeing in the usage numbers. So that's another talking point for sure. But yeah, not a ton that we're waiting on necessarily, just kind of a lot of secondary guys. But on a slate where we don't have a ton of injuries creating clear value, those secondary guys do seem to matter.
Yeah, and I mean, let's take a look at the ownerships right now. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mike Conley is in the exposures right now, so it's not going to be updated for those other guys we've been getting to.
Right.
Nickel Alexander Walker, Kyle Anderson. I mean, if Mike Conley's out, their prices are coming up. They should not be chalk. We'll have to see what their ownership ends up at. Like, Nikhil might still be playable since he'll probably be projected for 30 minutes.
Yep.
Kyle Anderson, 46. I mean, he could be like a low on GPP play, I think, but nothing more than that. And then the rest of these Minnesota guys against your Brooklyn Nets. I mean,
Yeah.
Gobert, Cat, and Edwards.
Yeah, and I've actually been playing McDaniels over Anderson the last few slates, and that's actually been going pretty well. So he's another guy to keep an eye on. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's like with Conley off the floor, we don't see massive spikes in usage for anyone. Like you think you'd see a bigger boost for Edwards or maybe Cat, but what it's doing is it's like they're taking the ball up the floor more, and like the usage rate calculates what whether they make the pass or they make the shot before the basket comes. But I don't know. They are more involved in a way that's like tough to quantify statistically. So Conley's like a really interesting case, and how do you figure out who's going to benefit? It is a low total here against the Nets here, 217, one of the lowest on the board. So I don't know that we have to force that. But on a slate we're lacking value. I think if Alexander Walker starts in place of Conley, if he's absent, that is going to be a piece of value we're definitely interested in.
Yeah, and going back to us being so interested in Utah, like I've got 6 Utah guys in like my top 10 exposures right now, which is insane. It's just kind of like we know that we have this value now. They're all gonna be chalky, and if we wait a little bit later, maybe we get someone out, and maybe another piece of value opens up. But we're really just banking on the last 2 games, Sacramento, Golden State. I don't think we're gonna have any like late scratches there or anything, and then Chicago, LA. Obviously, LeBron being out would be the big one. So.
Yep,
Let's go ahead and let's just dive into guards.
let's do it.
So, yep, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Chris Dunn. Just what we expected to see at the top of the exposures. Now, Colin Sexton, I've been jamming every slate until he's
Mhm.
above 7K. It just his role is different right now. They're finally letting him be the starting point guard, playing big minutes, and I mean, 40% actually seems kind of low to me. I'm kind of hoping he comes in only at 40%, but I'm expecting him to be a little bit higher. What's your order of preference between these top 3 Utah guys?
Oh yeah, it's been Sexton every day on DK for me. Sexton, then Clarkson, then Dunn. Dunn, I mean, at his price, he's definitely appealing, especially on a slate where we don't have much value. But he is very inconsistent. His minutes are all over the place. At least with Clarkson, Sexton, we kind of know what we're getting. They are super aggressive when they're on the floor, so I definitely feel better about those two. And then, yeah, Clarkson's cheaper than he should be on FanDuel. All three are cheaper than they should be on DK. So getting to more Clarkson than Sexton over on FanDuel, but I do think Sexton's kind of taking over that offense right now in a big way, and definitely the player I want to get the most of if I'm over on DK at 6,600.
Yeah. Do you have any like you're okay playing them both in the same lineup?
Those two, yeah, certainly, because they stagger. Clarkson comes off the bench. Most of his minutes in his first stint are without Sexton, so they don't really cut into each other too much. I mean, when they're both closing, it's great. And I mean, in other matchups, maybe I'd be more hesitant, but it's the Wizards, and it's one of the highest total games on the slate. So I don't know. I think at their prices, point per dollar, they're both excellent plays on DK. I have no issues going to both. Dunn, not as excited to get to him in general. But yeah, I mean, again, he's just so cheap that it almost doesn't matter that these guys could cut into each other slightly.
Well, we'll talk about Fontecchio when we get to the forwards, but I do
Mhm.
prefer Fontecchio at
Oh
that
yeah,
super cheap
agreed.
price over Dunn.
Definitely.
I love playing Sexton in basically every lineup, getting to a lot of Clarkson too. I view Clarkson more as a GPP play because he does come off the bench. He's a little bit more streaky, but we know that the ceiling is there. And Jose Morales only playing one lineup tonight. Which center would we suggest? We'll get into it more when we're at centers, but my top centers right now are Joel Embiid and Nikola Vucevic. And with all the value we have, it's really not hard to get to Joel Embiid. Uh,
Yeah, it's a big for me for sure, but you got to find the value to get there. But yeah, I think we can.
and who gets the starter benefit if Tobias ends up being out?
I mean, the biggest benefit's going to be Batum. I mean, he's seen more usage than he has, I think, in years over these last few games. Oubre should benefit as well. He's been super inconsistent. But yeah, I imagine the starting lineup. Um, hmm, it's interesting. They could go to House or Korkmaz or Martin, and like none of those guys are going to be exciting. Again, normally it would be Marcus Morris who slides in, but he said he's not going to play today. So yeah, if Harris is out, I don't know who's going to start. It's interesting, but I do think the bigger bumps are going to be for Batum and Oubre.
Yeah, I mean, it's Joel Embiid's usage is already sky high, but it could be a couple more touches for him for Tyrese Maxey, and then Kelly Oubre is probably the main beneficiary. Another day where he's top of DK value at 1% owned on DraftKings 5,200. So
Mhm.
seems like a pretty good GPP play to me.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and then learned your lesson, Lucas, never playing Dinwiddie again. Let's talk about
Ugh.
Dinwiddie. Tell me about him.
Yeah, I mean, we had a long conversation the last slate he was on, and I was like, man, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's been on Twitter arguing with people about how he's better than his numbers have been, and it's a joke that people think he's not trying. Then he goes out and puts up an absolute dud. So yeah, I mean, that didn't work out for him. I mean, you can say the same here tonight. His price came down a lot on both sides. He's only 5,200 on DK, 6K on FanDuel. His floor is single digits, though, and that's obviously terrible to see. We saw Bridges take over that last game, and when he does that, Dinwiddie kind of just fades into the background. But I mean, at his price on DK, I will say he is tempting. We do know he has a 30-point upside. I mean, we've seen him score over 40 at times. Not something I'd be projecting here, but point per dollar, I mean, he's a decent large field tournament play, but he is very high risk. I wouldn't be playing him at anything low risk or small field tonight, especially in a tough matchup.
I mean, it's kind of insane seeing him at basically the same price as Dennis Smith, right?
Right. Yeah.
Should we be interested? So McHale has shown a ceiling a
Mhm.
few times recently. Talk to me about McHale, Cam Thomas, Dennis Smith.
Dude, I mean, when they hired Jock Vaughn, I was happy for him. At this point, I'm kind of sick of it. Like, the rotations don't make any sense. Cam Thomas will be going off, and we'll be down 10 points, and he's not on the floor in the fourth quarter. You really can't make sense of the rotations for Thomas right now. Like, he has to be perfect for Vaughn to play him extended minutes. And even when he is, sometimes he's not getting that extra run. I love Cam Thomas. I think he's fine as like a super high risk play, but there's a chance he only plays 22 minutes here, so I can't really recommend it. Bridges is the one guy I actually do feel pretty good about. Still sub 8K on both sides, coming off back to back games where he's shooting the ball well. He's seeing the court better, getting assists, which is directly cutting into Dinwiddie, I think. But yeah, I mean, Bridges is the one guy who's actually been consistent. Cam Johnson's having a bad year. Apparently, every team in the NBA wants Dorian Finney-Smith, but he's not something we're really looking at for fantasy purposes. But yeah, just sticking on the guards. I mean, I do like Bridges here. I think he's fine. I wish Cam Thomas got more minutes. And then Dinwiddie's boom or bust at that price. We've seen Dennis Smith Jr. closing at times over Cam Thomas, and that's why he's having some of these big games. So just as much as I like Cam Thomas, you can make an argument for Dennis Smith Jr. in tournaments, but really, I don't trust any of them right now. I just really do like Bridges. And yeah, I wish Cam Thomas was getting more run because it's not like the Nets are competing for anything at this point. Like going into the season, I was like, I think they could be a 6 seed, 7 seed at worst. And right now, it's like they are going to be lucky to maybe back into the playing game with this roster. And I don't know. I feel pretty terrible about it. I just wish Cam Thomas was getting more minutes.
Hey man, I felt the same way about the Lakers. You know, we could be the 6 seed, 7 seed, and now
Yeah, man, it's
probably not even
similar.
going to make
I
the
mean,
play in.
yeah.
So this is a 3.5 point spread, which is kind of odd to me, even if Mike Conley's out against Minnesota. Minnesota's a really good team, and Brooklyn Nets, as Nick just said, aren't that good.
It's back.
Super.
Yeah, no, just to touch on the spread, it's a back to back for Minnesota. It's not a far trip from DC to Brooklyn, but they did play last night. The Nets are rested. And yeah, we do see that make a major effect on the spreads most of the time. Vegas does weigh travel very heavily and for good reason. So I think that's why the game's projected to stay as close as it is. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if the Timberwolves outplay them in a big way.
And in today's NBA, 217.5 is an absurdly low total.
Very low.
So we're not really targeting much from this game, but I do like McHale. And then, of course, the Minnesota big guys are the big Minnesota big three, I guess I should say, are going to be GPP plays.
Yep.
But sorting the model by OF index, first of all, Colin Sexton, double digit OF. I think we just play all the Colin Sexton today and don't even think twice about it. McHale, right under 10. But what about from these other top guys, Darren Fox, Steph Curry, Jamal, Jalen Brunson? How much interest should we have in these guys?
Yeah, honestly, it's a weird day. Like, usually on these 7 game slates, you'll have a bunch of guards that you want to pay up for. Like, when we're seeing Fox as the top OF index play, that really isn't the case. And I don't mind Fox here. I just think it's tough to pay all the way up a guard. I mean, if I'm picking anything, it's probably Brunson against Denver. And even that game environment isn't all that appealing. Like, none of these top guards are honestly jumping off the page to me. Like, I think you're landing on those Utah guys a lot. I do like the Lakers in the late game. Like D'Angelo Russell's price is up. I don't mind paying 7K for him on DK. And then Austin Reeves feels a little bit cheap on both sites. I know even if LeBron's in, someone was ruled out for them earlier, but I think Cam Reddish is out again. But that's enough for me to want to get to Reeves at 5,900 on DK, 6,200 on FanDuel. I know he hasn't been great. Oubre keeps putting up duds, but I mean, if Harris is out tonight, I think you have to get to him in that 5K range. And then, I mean, I'm looking at the Kings. Like, Monk is more popular than he should be, but I do like Herter as a pivot. Tyus Jones, you mentioned earlier, he's a guy I've been playing almost every single night. Some nights it goes terribly, but the nights it goes well, I mean, his ceiling and his price is rare. So I really do like Tyus Jones. And then as much as I like the Lakers guys, I can see maybe getting to Kobe White, a little bit of Caruso, a little bit of Donsumu. I like having exposure to this late game because if LeBron is ruled out, I do want to find ways to maybe get to some AD. And even if I can't, still no Zach LaVine for the Bulls right now, which has created opportunities for guys like Caruso, Donsumu, etc. They're all playing more minutes than they were earlier in the season. I don't know that models have fully caught up. I know the prices are climbing on these guys, but I just like this kind of lower mid range. Like, there's not a lot of punts I like, but yeah, I'm finding enough guards in the 5 to 6K range. Again, I'm loading up on Embiid tonight. Not that that's like a super hot take or anything, but yeah, if I'm paying up for anything, it's going to be Embiid or a little bit of Joker. Because yeah, there's just not guards in that high end that I'm really crazy about.
Yeah, I basically agree with you, and it's not so much that I don't love the high end guards. It's just we have too much good in the mid range with the Utah guys. You just mentioned Kobe White, D'Angelo Russell. These guys all look great. And Swerve Baby in the chat, Kobe White going to kill the Lakers. Hey, it's going to be him, Vooch, or DeMar. I like all three of them tonight, and so we'll see how that goes. A couple other guys that I wanted to mention. So Malik Monk, first of all, this guy seems to just always go off whenever he's randomly chalk, and so just keep that in mind. His price is good. He's a GPP play. I do think his ownership is weirdly high on days like this, especially we have all the other Utah value at a similar price, but 243.5 total, 1.5 point spread, so it's going to be a close game. This is a prime spot for Malik Monk, so I kind of get the ownership, but it just feels a smidge too high to me.
Yeah, I agree.
You mentioned Werder as a pivot. Alex
Hit.
Caruso looks great. Buddy Hield, terrible, really terrible last game. Took like 3 shots total, but 5,600 at 4% on DraftKings, even with Siakam there. Seems like a GPP play.
Yeah, and I'll add Nemhard to that list too. I mean, he's been getting more minutes than McConnell. McConnell's going to get some love because he's the better fantasy point per minute producer, but I think Nemhard's actually more likely to push 30. Obviously, still no Halliburton there. So, yes, I like Heald. He has the higher ceiling. But if you're not quite getting to him and you want to just plug in some floor at guard, I don't mind Nemhard. I do think he plays enough here to probably hit value.
And sort the model by value and see what else we're getting. I mean, we already know Chris Dunn and Sexton are going to be at the top. Werder above Monk on the value rating. He's a bit
Ooh,
cheaper, but something to keep in mind at what 1/5 of the ownership of Malik
right,
Monk on
that's big.
DraftKings.
That's a
Uh,
good pivot.
De'Aaron Fox, pretty high on value if you can, figure out a way to still fit in a couple of the Utah guys with De'Aaron Fox at the guard spot. Derek White and Drew Holiday. So I was so interested in these guys before, and now I'm just not. And let's throw Jaylen Brown in there. How much Boston are you looking at today in this tough Miami matchup?
Yeah, I mean, at their ownerships, they're definitely interesting because they can spike a ceiling. But yeah, it's another situation, kind of like the Clippers, where it's like, which of these guys is going to go off in a given night? Like, not only do you have to have that player have a good night, but they have to have a better night than a few of their teammates. Like, you need two things to go right for you for some of these guys, and I mean, the prices are tempting. I will say 6,100 for Drew does feel a little bit low over on DK. I'd probably get to him first. I mean, White has spiked the higher ceiling at times, but pretty inconsistent. I know we were heavy on him against Dallas. At least I was. That was a mess. So yeah, it's just a situation where one of these guys is probably going to be really good. I'll throw Jaylen Brown in that mix as well, but you're kind of playing roulette which one it's going to be. And against a tough defense in Miami, I'd just rather pay down a little bit more for these guys we're talking about in the 5K range. But I mean, when they're solo owned, like you definitely want to mix them in a little bit because we do see upside out of all of them. It's just who's it going to be tonight?
Yeah, especially on days like this where I do think that we want to eat the chalk. We got to find some low owned guys to,
Right.
just try to get a little bit different. I mean, 2 days ago there was like a 5-way chop at the top of the DK fadeaway, 100K up top, and that just seemed absurd to me. It had a three
That's
percent
tough.
Thad Young, and so one low owned guy was not enough. But on most slates, it should be. And not that you're complaining to chop, you still won 30K, but
Yeah, definitely.
just scrolling down the list, I mean, KCP, low owned. It's like a lot of these guys that are going to show up near the top of the model, KCP, Alex Caruso, even like Jordan Poole, Clay Thompson. I don't know how necessary they are today because to me, these top guys, like, well, Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson specifically, their ceilings are just as high as these guys, even though they're coming in with way higher ownership. I think they hit their ceiling outcome much more often, especially against Washington, 246 total. We really just want to load up on this game. And we just got news that Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris were both ruled out today.
Yep.
So let's, I guess,
I mean, I got one more guard then. I guess we're looking at Pat Beverly a little bit.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the best offensive player, but whenever he gets over 25 minutes, I mean, he's going to push value for you at 4,500, which is his price on both sites. Again, there's a lot of 5K range plays that we like, but if you want to go a little bit cheaper, I actually think Beverly's decent here in a game that they should be paced up, a little bit reckless with guys like Heald and Nemhard running up and down the floor. Maybe he could kind of luck into a few steals or something like that if he hits a three or two. Yeah, Beverly could end up very, very valuable here. And I'm going to be very interested to see what the starting lineup looks like because I don't know where they're going to go. I guess they could even go Beverly next to Maxi, which would be weird because they're going to want him ball handling with the second unit. But maybe like Daniel House slides in now or Korkmaz. I don't know. It's been a while since they've had Harris and Morris out.
Yeah, it's gonna probably be a little bit gross. I mean, they could throw a flyer with I don't think Jaden Springer got ruled out yet. They seem to want to give him a few minutes. I don't know how interested we're going to be in him. I mean, KJ Martin's been getting a few minutes here and there, so we'll
Someone has
see.
to play him. Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And by the way, if whoever in the chat yesterday asked about Scottie Pippen Jr. and I said I wouldn't play him, I'm sorry, but just seeing these min price guys kind of reminded me of that. And Scottie Pippen Jr. was like 0.5% owned, and
Shout out to Smitty in
yeah,
our Discord who took it down. I think he had Gilliard and Pippen in the same lineup. I don't know if that was his one that won, but I had a few thrown into that contest, just some pivots off my single entry stuff. And yeah, all night he led. He was up by 20 points like the whole slate. So a big part of
so
that was
fun.
Scottie Pippen Jr. Take some balls to make plays like that sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying like Cork Maz, Jaden Springer, KJ Martin or those guys, but just they're min priced. I mean, they're all poor fantasy producers, but I mean,
Right.
stuff happens.
It's happened. Yeah.
And Swerve in the chat, Batum. It's a good transition into forwards. Let's take a look at the forward position. I mean, where is Batum falling on the model?
Yeah.
He's
This is
not
going
bad.
to be
It's,
pre-news, so
yeah, I mean, it's not bad where he was before. We already had him projected for 29 minutes. I don't know how much more we can project him. His usage rate probably goes up by a little bit, but again, like Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey already dominate usage, so I would expect them to just creep up a little bit more.
I actually like Batum lately. Like, it's funny. I mean, he was with Portland, right? And then before that, Charlotte. And it seemed like he was checked out. And, like, I know when he got traded to Philly, whether it was his wife or girlfriend was tweeting about how he was, like, considering retiring because they had to uproot their whole family again. But this is, like, the first good competitive team he's been on in a long time. And, I mean, Batum's a talented player. I mean, he can hit threes. He plays good defense. I mean, he does it all. He can play a lot of minutes. So I don't mind getting to him here. And a little bit of extra usage and a paced up matchup for him can do wonders. I imagine he's going to be very popular by the time we get to lock now. But on a slate where none of the value feels that great, I think I'm going to be pretty heavy on Batum, even on FanDuel where he's 600 more than he is on DK.
First good competitive team, the Clippers slander.
Well, when was he? He hasn't been on the Clippers since what? He hasn't been on the Clippers since.
I thought that was his last team. I might be mistaken,
No,
but
no. I know he was on the Clippers. Maybe I don't know. I could have. I know he had two stints on the Clippers. I think since he's been on Portland and Charlotte, but
no, last he was on the Clippers the last 3 seasons, and then he went straight to Philadelphia. He was on a
okay.
started his career with Portland, then went to Charlotte, got that massive contract, stopped playing basketball, and then
Well, yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I guess I don't know. Maybe he wasn't as involved on the Clippers as he wanted to be, but like he hasn't really been a difference maker. I feel like he missed a year.
no,
Maybe I'm mixing him up with Covington. They're pretty much the same player. At this point, there's a chance
sounds
I'm
right.
gonna. Yeah, man. I mean, like, but yeah, these defensive wings, like, they're very valuable on good teams. Like, that's why you hear a guy like Finney Smith might somehow get 2 first round picks, which I still don't believe, but. Yeah, I mean, teams need these guys, and yeah, no, no, here we go. No, I think I got it backwards. So yeah, he was in Portland, then Philly. Yeah, I don't know what I'm thinking. Regardless, I like Batum tonight.
Same,
Career trajectory aside, yeah,
same. And other forwards, I mean, Chris Dunn, super top of the DK value at 28% on DraftKings, 3,900. I mean, the price is definitely too cheap. We can only project him for what, 20 minutes, 19 minutes. And so I do still prefer Sexton. I do still prefer Clarkson. But if you need that salary savings, you can get to Dunn. But I would rather get to Fontecchio at slightly lower ownership on DraftKings. What about the 4,800 on FanDuel for Fontecchio?
I'm fine with it, man. And again, I know now I'm probably gonna get to more Batum, but Batum you can put it power forward. So I like Fontecchio. I mean, he's been a little bit streaky. Like there was a period where he went cold when Markkanen and Clarkson came back, but it looks like he's kind of settled into this role here again. Yeah, I'm fine with him, man. Definitely going to play the minutes. Definitely like the matchup. Price is fine. Obviously, a little bit more expensive on FanDuel than he is on DK, but yeah, I think that's like 3 or 4 games in a row where he's pushing value at this price, which is more than you can say for a lot of the guys in the 4K range.
Yeah, he's been one of my favorite low on value plays. Not coming in super low owned recently, but he should be pretty popular after he hit all those threes last time. I think he was in the winning lineup the last time they were on the slate.
Yeah, 5 for 8 from three in 24 minutes last game, which is ridiculous. But I mean, 24 minutes is a low for him. Like I think we could project him for more.
Right, they got blasted though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
think
lost
they
by
got blown out.
yeah they lost by 30 to the Pelicans, which took away some of Laurie Markkinen's fourth quarter run. Also showing up great OF index, showing up near the top of DK value. Also very chalky. Are you concerned about like combinations of these guys together, like Sexton, Clarkson, and Markkinen in the same lineup together?
Not really. At least not on DK again, just because they're all kind of cheaper than they should be. Like on FanDuel, where I'm really like jamming Embiid, I'm a little bit more conscious of it. Like there are pivots now. But yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to get to Sexton on FanDuel. I'm getting to Clarkson. I really don't like Dunn's price that much on FanDuel. So if I'm landing on like Laurie, Fontecchio, and Clarkson, I'm fine with it. But yeah, I would cap probably at 3 Jazz on FanDuel, where 4 is probably doable on DK.
Gonna go ahead and refresh here, and maybe we have a maybe we'll see Kelly Oubre at the actual top of forward value now if with Tobias out. Yep, Kelly Oubre, actual top value. Now the model could still be crunching. We haven't predicted for 32 minutes. It usually takes a few minutes to fully adjust, but yeah, Kelly Oubre definitely jumped up. And Danwell House, third. Again, model's crunching, 23-minute projection. So we'll see if that settles down in a few minutes. But I mean, House, there was a game where people thought he was going to play, and then he ended up not really playing. So I'm not sure I'm going to get there too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if he starts, and he did play over 20 minutes the past two games with Harris, I think, in there. So I don't know. He's decent value, but again, all these guys are sharing the floor with Embiid. He's going to take up most of that usage. And me, as someone who's loading up on Embiid, I don't want to get to too many secondary pieces for Philly. It is a great matchup, though. He is dirt cheap. There's not much in that price range we can even consider. So, yeah, I'll probably get to some house here, but not aggressively, just because even if he plays 25 to 30 minutes, you don't know that he's going to see enough shots to hit value.
And Jose in chat, last piece in Poper Naismith.
Mm.
Honestly, I would just sort by value, and Naismith is showing up higher than Pope. So my pick would be Naismith, and I kind of feel like I like Naismith a little bit more anyway. 12%, 18% ownership. The 4,600 price on DraftKings seems fine.
Yeah, there's more usage to go around for Indy with Halliburton out. I mean, Pope is kind of like a third or fourth option on Denver, and that game is a 20-point lower implied total. So, yeah, Naismith definitely checks more boxes.
More Utah guys, John Collins and Kelly Olynyk. I mean, I'm getting a ton of all of these guys, so like I'm just trying to mix it up. Maybe I will set a rule max two of Laurie, Kelly Olynyk, John Collins, and Walker Kessler. But other than that, I mean, are we still taking the Utah value at the forward position?
I mean, I don't mind Collins at 5K. Like I saw earlier, Olynyk was going to be chalky at 36, and yes, that price is way too cheap. But he's playing like 15 minutes a game. Like I'm looking for ways to get away from that if I can. I mean, Kessler feels a little cheap, but you're using up the center spot. Yeah, they all make sense. Like I don't know who pissed someone off at DK that all these guys are cheap or what the deal is, but yeah, for whatever reason, like their pricing on the Jazz today is just way too soft, and I really can't wrap my head around it. Honestly, it's the entire team is too cheap.
I just want to mention Patrick Williams and Harrison Barnes showing up near the top of value. I'm personally not that interested. Nick, are you looking at these guys at all?
I mean, Barnes is tough. I never like playing him. He does have
Yeah.
upside, but he's coming off a game where he had 40 points. It's just, he's not going to do that again. I'm not going to play him. And if he does and he beats me, whatever. Patrick Williams, I don't mind mixing in just because Ford's kind of thin on FanDuel, but he is priced over 5,200. I mentioned earlier, I really like the Bulls guards tonight.
Yeah.
But in lineups where I'm not getting to other Bulls, I don't mind mixing him in. But yeah, I'm never expecting too much out of Patrick Williams. Like, you kind of need things to really go his way for him to hit value. And I don't know. Just if Barnes is going to draw any ownership at all, I'm happy to get away. He's like the ultimate last guy in, like he
Yeah.
has been for a decade.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, right now, coming off a 40-point game, if he's drawing like, what's he drawing at ownership? But yeah, it's time to jump off, in my opinion. He's unowned, so I guess you could play him. But yeah, I don't know. Don't expect 40 fantasy points.
We have Smitty in the chat. Let's ship tonight. Hey, man, if you save some contests for the rest of us, been
Yeah,
on a heater
man.
recently.
I'm
Congrats
putting
to you.
20 in that 2-2-2 tonight that you took down twice this week. I only had 5 lineups in last night. I knew I didn't have a chance, but yeah, it's fun sweating yours when I can't sweat mine. So keep it up, man. Just some really creative plays in there. Shout out Scottie Pippen Jr. big time.
Shout out Scottie Pippen Jr. And how much Philadelphia on FanDuel is too much with Embiid in the lineup?
I don't think there is too much. You're only allowed to play four, so it's four.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what other guys I would even want in the lineup with Embiid. Because if you're playing a bunch of Philly, I'm at like, if you're fading Utah, I don't know that I would, but it just seems like if you're gonna have a lot of Philly and Utah guys with maybe a one-off piece from another team or something.
Yeah, it's just like Embiid is the alpha there. Like, I don't know, Maxi, you're gonna struggle to fit Maxi with Embiid, and like if Maxi is a huge game, that I don't know. Like I can't even say this anymore because we've seen so many huge Embiid games where Maxi also goes off. And the other guys are just kind of cheap value. Like Oubre's going to be cheap, Batum's cheap. House, if you're using him as just like a punt, it makes sense. Like I don't know, you're limited to four, and I don't think that rotation's deep enough that they're going to cut into each other much in a matchup that they should be paced up considerably. So I don't know. I just don't see the negative correlation here like we might in another spot.
And what about KJ Martin? So I did mention KJ Martin when I was going through all those lower tier Philadelphia guys, and he's what the min price on both sites, and so I don't know. It just the minutes. If he plays seven, like we're hoping for 17 minutes, which isn't exactly a spot that we want to be in, even for such a cheap player. Are you
Right.
going to get to any KJ Martin tonight?
Probably not, because like
Um,
the logic is like if House was like 80% owned, like Martin would be a good direct pivot, but I don't know. I think Furkan comes off the bench before him, and like I'm not even going to be that heavy on House, so like I don't know that I want to chase that leverage for a play that I'm not even heavy on to begin with. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
I think I agree with you
yeah,
there.
I'm good there. Yeah,
Some other forwards before we move on. AD, awesome OF index, high in DK value. I think he's great with or without LeBron. Currently projected for 9% and 4% ownership. We do have the value to get there. I mean, he's a low owned piece. I would probably try to mix in one other low owned piece if you're playing all the chalk in your other spots. We both like Mikal Bridges. I mean, OG Anunoby's playing all the minutes, but he's not really doing much with them. We both like Denny as a tournament play. I mean, are there
yeah, I
any
like
other
Denny.
mid range forward guys?
Um, I'll say Reeves just because he's forward eligible on FanDuel. Herder as well. We already talked about these guys as guard, but I'm definitely mixing them in through my exposures. One situation I did want to highlight, though, I think we need to talk about Kaminga coming off a huge game. I know someone asked if he'd be chalk. I think Draymond's back tonight, right? Or was he back last game?
Yeah, he was back. I think he's been coming off the bench though. He came off the bench in the previous game anyway.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know. I don't mind getting to Kaminga because he's been so good, but if he's going to be popular, like I'm pretty comfortable getting off of it. But if he's not owned, and yeah, 25% on FanDuel, 11 on DK though, where he's cheaper, he's probably a decent tournament play over there. But um, yeah, he's been playing amazing lately. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, he's
yeah,
been on a tear, still getting 29 minutes even with Draymond back. I mean, he did shoot 11 for 11 last game. That's probably not going to
four
happen
stocks.
again.
Yeah, 11-11 with four
Yeah.
stocks. So don't look too deep into that one.
Just,
But
he's coming off the best game of his career. The two previous games, he took 18 shots. I mean, even with Draymond out, that was an anomaly. So, I do. With that said, I do like Jonathan Kuminga tonight. I'm getting to some of him. I think he's a fine GPP play,
yeah.
especially against Sacramento. Love playing guys against Sacramento.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through here too. I do want to say Jaden McDaniels, if Conley's out, probably won't be as popular as he should be. Kyle Anderson's been drawing all that ownership. McDaniels has been outplaying him though and playing more minutes, so I prefer him. And then a guy I always seem to land on is Aaron Gordon. For better or worse, definitely is an upside, but we haven't seen it all that frequently lately. But since I'm loading up on Embiid, it's very tough for me to get to Joker here. So if I want exposure to this game, I can see landing on maybe some Michael Porter or Aaron Gordon. But they're both kind of high risk plays right now. They've been pretty inconsistent. Most of that usage is going to Murray and Joker.
Yeah, with Aaron Gordon, like he was such a phenomenal GPP play earlier in the season when Jamal Murray was out. But with Jamal in the lineup, it
Yeah,
reduces his usage so much. And at like 5,600, 9% on DK, I would say like he's a pretty decent pivot to like a John Collins or Walker Kessler, whatever. But with Jamal Murray in the lineup, I'm not quite getting there.
right.
Like I might have a couple shares or something like that. But you mentioned MPJ too. I think MPJ has a higher ceiling, but again,
Yeah.
he really just has to hit a bunch of threes, get a couple extra rebounds, two blocks, something like that, with Jamal in the lineup. And Saric for Golden State. Is Saric power forward eligible on DraftKings? He is.
Yeah, and he's been starting. I think the time's going to come where Draymond slides back into the starting lineup, and then you're going to have to really bite your nails if you're rostering Sarge. But I guess if he starts again here, I don't mind it. But
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a deep GPP play. He's still an excellent fantasy point per minute guy, but only playing 16 minutes in the blowout last
oh
night.
wow, yeah,
And then I don't know, he must have been out for like a week or something. I didn't even notice that. But so we don't really have a sample size with Draymond back. One game, played 16 minutes. So for me, the price is a little bit too high. But if that's your GPP play, then that's your lone guy.
yeah. I get a shout for you in that same game, Keegan Murray. I don't even know if he's popping in the model, but I'm just looking at that matchup right now, and we know he spiked the ceiling. He never seems to be very popular on these kind of mid to bigger slates, and yeah, just always these 6K range guys, and like you want 40 points out of him. But Murray's a guy who spiked for 50 at times, and like if you're playing large field tournaments, you're looking for those spikes. They're not going to come most of the time, but when they do, I mean that's what can carry you up the leaderboard. Keegan Murray is someone I definitely want to mix in here. Probably at no ownership, I'm guessing. Yeah, 7 on DK, 8 on FanDuel. So a little low, but not enough.
And in the same game, it's not like a perfect pivot, but it is kind of a pivot off of a higher owned Kaminga. If you're trying to, maybe you get to the end of the night and you need to make a swap in your lineup, Keegan Murray. I mean, we know he is a ceiling, just shows up
Yeah.
once every 6 games or whatever.
Yeah, I trust him more than Kaminga. Like, I know he's a little bit more expensive, but if you're going one for one, I'd rather play Murray anyway.
And Jalen Smith are done. So my answer is probably going to be done, even with the ownership difference. But I
Yeah.
mean, Jalen Smith projected for 15 minutes, just with Pascal Siakam in, even at 3,900 on DraftKings. I don't think I can get there at all.
Yeah. The price is tempting, but again, Rick Carlisle, crazy rotations. I mean, some nights he's got Walker in there, Shepard's getting extra minutes, and then other nights he's playing no bigs except Turner. Like, I don't know how to read him here. So, yeah, I'd rather just go with Dunn, who he at least knows going to play 20 plus.
Yeah, if you need that 3,900 guy, I was going to say Naismith is projected for twice as many minutes at only $700 more on DraftKings. I'd feel better about him even at the higher ownership.
I like that.
Let's go ahead and move into centers. And so someone asked about our top centers tonight. My two are Joel Embiid and Nikola Vucevic. Probably going to try to mix in some Anthony Davis, but it looks like he's falling in my power forward slots just scrolling through my lineups. Is there anyone else at the top end? I mean, we got Jokic at 1/10 the ownership of Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to go back to Claxton a little bit. Again, the Timberwolves are great defensively, but they're very big, and the Nets don't have Day'Ron Sharp right now. They actually called up Noah Clowney, um, and I don't think Clowney's going to play very much here. So, yeah, if I'm not paying all the way up for Embiid or Jokic, I definitely think I'm going to land on some Claxton in that mid range. I mean, other than that, it's tough. I do think Sims is going to be pretty interesting over on DK, where you can play two centers now. Um, yeah, I get the Vooch take. I'm a little concerned, man, because against bigger teams, he seems to struggle, and the Lakers are definitely a bigger team. But I don't know. Maybe the extra usage with Levine out, it doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I see Vooch under 8K. Like Anthony Davis is really good on defense, but I talk about it all the time. He doesn't stop other
Yeah,
centers from scoring fantasy points.
that's true.
And just the way Vooch scores, I mean, we're hoping for a few assists. Maybe it's a three, and just really just get that good, solid double double anyway. I mean, Demantis, super chalk, 22 and 26% at 10K.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if I wasn't loading up on Embiid, I'd probably have more interest on Sabonis. But he's gone over 50 like 4 or 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
Golden State, obviously, if there's a hole in that defense, it is the front court for the most part. Draymond playing limited minutes off the bench, not even going to be glued to him directly. So, yeah, this is the type of matchup that Sabonis tends to thrive in. And yeah, he's considerably cheaper than the other top centers. So yeah, Sabonis is probably a pretty good chalk tonight, especially if you're not playing two boomer bust, jamming in Embiid or Jokic, something like that.
And Zachary in the chat, Bagley and Gafford splitting minutes. Basically, yeah, and it's
Mm.
really unfortunate because Bagley was a fantasy superstar in those 2 games he played without Gafford. They just let him play the entire game, and his usage was actually good. And so you see, we have him projected for 48 minutes total, so they're just going to swap one for the other. I doubt they share a minute on the court. FanDuel does have Bagley at power forward eligible, but
Yep.
at 5,700, I don't really have much interest in either of these centers tonight.
Yeah, one probably has a good game, but again, you're trying to make two things work out for you when you roster one of these guys. Like they have to have a good game and they have to outplay their teammates. So
And they gave Kyle Kuzma center eligibility, which I mean, they gave Miles Bridges center eligibility. I don't know why they do that because, like, very clearly, Gafford and Bagley are both. One of them's going to be on the court. Kuzma's going to play 0 center minutes tonight, most likely. But with that said, I don't mind Kuzma. I'd prefer to get him in the power forward spot because there are some centers we want to play tonight.
yeah, I agree.
But
Yeah.
running back Utah seems good. Julius Randle, we didn't really talk about him on forwards. He's been off and on for his ownership like every other day. Are you going to be over the field on him today?
Um, Again, I'm so heavy on Embiid. I don't think anything over 8K I'm going to be that heavy on. I do want to get some Randall though. I mean, a guy who can certainly spike an upside at his price makes plenty of sense. I don't know. I would never talk anyone off playing him, even in a tough matchup against the Nuggets. Another guy I will add to the mix here is Porzingis. I know Horford's back. No one ever seems to want to roster him though, and there are these games where he just out of nowhere goes insane. And I don't know if the defense tends to key on Tatum here or Spolstra he likes to scheme for certain things. Maybe Porzingis is the guy who breaks free tonight. And at 8,100, he's cheaper than both Jalen Brown and Tatum, and I think he has similar upside. Not a great matchup. Again, one of these guys probably does really well here. Who's to say it won't be Porzingis at low ownership though? So I'd mix him into my pool if I was playing a bunch of lineups.
Oh, I like that call, especially with all the chalk that we're going to be on. And then
Yeah,
just a few other guys I want to mention, like Cat and Gobert are both interesting, but that low total kind of scares me away. Bam against Boston. I mean, perceived tough matchup against Boston. Bam's pulling a little bit of ownership, but he looks awesome. Terry Rozier came off the bench yesterday, so it's not really reducing usage for Bam at all. I do like Nick Claxton as well. And then Walker Kessler, the last piece of Utah chalk we haven't talked about, 20% expected ownership on DraftKings at 4,900. I mean, I think we just mix these guys up. I think he's a fine play. I do think he is more boomer bust than the other guys, so 20% still seems kind of high to me. But I'm going to be mixing him in.
yeah. I mean, again, I don't know what the deal is with DK and the Utah Jazz. They're all too cheap, and that includes Kessler. On FanDuel, I wouldn't pay 6.3 for him in your one center spot, but DK, he makes a lot of sense for sure.
And sorting by DK value, I mean, we have Embiid and Kessler with the exact same DK value. Obviously, Embiid much higher OF index. So, yep, mix these two in. Model loves Vooch, John Collins, DeMontis. I mean, Daniel Gafford, I just said I don't like him, but he is coming in at 2%. The model seems to like him, even though he's only projected for 27 minutes, which is probably typical for him throughout this season. So don't hate it. AD, Kelly Olynyk, Nick Claxton. I mean, I'm probably going to stick to this top of the the first 10 guys on the DK value for my center pool today.
I'm with it.
So first guy in our dummy build, Colin Sexton.
Yeah, he's too cheap. We're gonna start with these Jazz.
Yeah, what other we going? Markin and Clarkson, Fontecchio.
Um, let's go Fontecchio because I like the price, and then since I've been touting him so heavily, I do want to try to jam Embiid here and build around it so we can show some of these value plays we like.
Right, let's get to Embiid at the center spot. And then, I mean, do we want to put in John Collins?
It's crazy. Like my first thought is like, and then I look at the price and I'm like, yes, like yeah.
No.
So I'm fine getting the Collins. I mean, he makes a lot of sense here. We could also maybe go Batum at power forward. He's 4,800 on DK.
Let's do
Both of them are
Batum.
fine. But I really do like Batum. I think Oubre has the higher ceiling, but I think Batum's safer if we're only playing one of those two.
Do we want to run back these three Utah guys with maybe a Tyus Jones or a Denny?
Um, I don't know that we have to, but yeah, if I like both of them, I'm fine either way. But they're kind of priced where they should be, I think.
Yeah, and they like these Utah guys are cheap enough. You don't have to have a run back if you're playing three. If you're playing four, I mean, if you're playing the four cheapest, you still don't need a run back. But
Right.
like, I'm not setting any rules for it. I'm just hoping that Tyus and Denny Avdia show up enough in my lineups. Because I mean, I have all the Jazz guys anyway, right?
Yeah, those are the two I trust the most. And yeah, Kuz looks nice, but he's kind of pricey, and I don't want to prioritize someone just as a run back for that reason. So
Do we
yeah,
want to
Denny I like, or yeah,
do we want to try to get in McHale at 72?
yeah, why not?
Let's throw in McHale
Let's
Bridges.
rep the
Leaves
Nets
us.
here.
I mean, we still have 5,300 for each position. Guard and utility.
Maybe one of the Bulls in the late game, so we have some flexibility, or one of the Lakers even. So like
I like
Reeves
that.
or Caruso or Kobe's a little pricier, but
Damn, D'Angelo Russell 7K. Still probably get there a little bit, but it's not going to work for this build.
yeah. I mean, I
Uh,
like the Caruso price
yeah,
facing up.
let's throw Caruso in there. Model approved play. Leaves
Yeah,
us
LeBron
5,600
will
for
be cheering him
utility.
on too. That's always good.
Right. This is kind of like his tryout to get traded to us,
I know
right?
they're saying he's two first as well. I mean, this trade deadline is going to be interesting. Every single player is rumored to be worth two first round picks. I'm like, I don't think every team has two first round picks, so we'll see how this goes.
Well, apparently the Lakers are getting DeJounte and Tyus Jones now, on top of Donovan Mitchell and Trey Young.
Oh
So,
yeah,
I,
they could
you
just
know,
have everybody. And Pat Bev is starting. Jingle bells. So yeah,
oh, fun, fun. I
I
mean,
like him honestly.
do we want to get Pat Bevan here instead of Batum, or we want to play both?
I like both. I think we play him over Caruso and see what we're left with at utility.
All right, let's get Pat
I do
Bevan.
like Caruso though. I don't want to pretend I don't, but if he's going to play 30 minutes, like how do you not play him?
Well, going to Pat Bevo or Caruso lets us get to Clarkson or Avdia, and
Mm.
so it seems like a pretty good last piece in. Don't mind
Yeah.
either of them.
Yeah, or even Keegan Murray if you want to wait till the late. But I like all those guys.
And so that question about like how many Philadelphia guys are we playing on FanDuel, like I mean this draft our DraftKings dummy has 3 Utah, possibly three Philadelphia guys with Mikal Bridges. So for a small field, this is a great build. For large field, it's probably a little bit too chalky still, but I
Hmm.
mean just pivot off one of these guys, two of these guys, and you should be okay.
Yeah, FanDuel it's 3 or 4 for the most part. So
Yeah. Have any last questions? All right, guys. Well, lock is in about 30 minutes. We have the Discord starting in probably right now. So hop in there, instructions in the description below. If you want to see updates to the model after lock, sign up for occupyfantasy.com. $7 a week gets you access to everything that we have to offer. And I mean, dollar a day, you win once, kind of pays for itself. So, Nick, any final words?
no, no. Really like these early games, which is kind of weird, but definitely keep an eye on news. There are a few things we're still waiting on. Just make sure you have the flexibility if you're loading up on these late games. I don't know. I'm talking in circles because I'm thinking of how I'm going to build with Pat Bev now. But yeah, I mean, I got to go a little bit balanced. I'm loading up on MB tonight. Do I think he scores 100 fantasy points again? No. But let's cheer for 90 collectively here. Let's get 90 out of MB.
Yeah, I'll settle for 85. And
Okay, deal, deal.
I'm doing that too. I'm playing a ton of the first game, but I'm giving like an artificial boost to everyone in the Chicago Lakers game just to leave me some flexibility. So I like that call a lot.
I like it.
We'll see you guys next time. Thanks.